It's really interesting. I don't know, did you ever see that conversation on the BBC News between it was some Chinese guy, he worked for the Chinese government, and they were discussing about the electric vehicles between China and America, England.
No, I
didn't.
didn't.
You ever see it? It's really interesting, and I don't want to misquote it, but I think people can find it and send it to you. They were saying that China produces 90% of the electric vehicles, and the UK is concerned about that they produce too many electric vehicles, and that the UK wants to produce some more electric vehicles because they don't want China to have a complete hegemony over the future when we use EVs, etc. And the Chinese and they were talking about competition between the two countries. So how do you feel about UK trying to compete with you in the electric vehicle market? And the member of the Chinese government said, we see the UK as a country that was historically important that we'd like to have good relations with. But when it comes to population, when it comes to production capacity, when it comes to safety on the streets, when it comes to educational performance, when it comes to the ability to project force, the UK cannot compete with China in any regard.
Correct.
They're historically believe it's still World War II, but effectively they're a small island far away who we'd like to have good relations with, but we do not see as a competitor or a threat in any regard ever. He just nailed it. Like, who the are the UK?
Pretty much what Putin said, by the way, too. It's like, this is behind. The system is old.
Yeah,
We're
who
moving
cares?
forward. Yeah.
That's right. Completely right. So in the West, we think, the West is the center of the world. But truthfully, we're not the center of very much at all. There's a lot of countries in the world that don't see us as important as we see ourselves. And we don't have a population as large as most of the rest of the world. We don't have the natural resources. We don't have the capability to produce anything. And we're now entering a dynamic where our men, because it's going to be our people against other people, right? Especially in the bipolar world, our men and their pussy-footed approach to life are going to be pitted against men who are prepared to fight and die for real.
Yep.
And we're going to see how that all works out. I guess the idea of the Western elites is that they can just continue to use the dollar to subjugate these nations, and that they can use AI and machines. I mean, for right now,
just launch a world war out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You can reset everything by bombing and exploding and then stealing people's
that's right.
resources.
Or having better technology. We think, we don't need real men in the army because we've got better tech, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we'll see how that all works out. But I think the next 100 years are going to be very interesting when we see that